what's up, Mythguardians? Cool Cat here, and I am back. So I haven't been posting much. I've been playing quite a lot since the expansion dropped. I've been kind of focusing more on improving than posting a lot of content lately. So, with that, I finally hit Mythril rank, climbed all the way back from silver. Since I didn't play much last season, I got demoted down pretty far. So it took me a good amount of time to finally get back to kind of a base point in Mythril rank. And I had also recently participated in the Mythgard Open, and I happened to get fourth. And I know a lot of the prizes were for top 3, so I didn't get anything as far as cash prizes or anything. I got a decent stack of coins from it and a really great experience. So what I'm gonna do here in this video is kind of go over how I built my lineup, what I had expected as far as performance from my lineup, what I was targeting, my goals. It was a conquest format with a single ban. So there was a lot of agency when it comes to creating a lineup, targeting something, or just completely avoiding something. So let's go ahead and hop into that. We'll go over the lineup, go over my performance, maybe watch a few replays as well. So first up, we have a pretty standard yellow-orange list. You have all of your standard stuff. You have your draw package and the clay effigies, as well as the misanthropias. It's actually just a really standard list with just a couple of new cards, mostly looking at the corrode equipment, which is really great with the new power Protect. See, Protect gives a minion 1 armor, and corrode equipment does more blight if they have armor. So typically, you'll play Protect on an enemy minion, use the corrode equipment, and then generally kill that minion in 1 or 2 turns. We are running the Venom Fang Mutant. A lot of the 2-drops in the list are kind of worse than Venom Fang Mutant after nerfs like the Xerxian Recruiter. Typically, Venom Fang is going to be a much better blocker in today's meta. And we're also running, as far as new cards go, we're running 1 copy of the Miasma Catalyst, which is very similar to the Herald of Pestilence, except it doesn't have armor, and it's using the new keyword Threaten, which is essentially any minion that can attack the minion is threatening the minion, if that makes any sense. And then also for new cards, we are running 2 of the Rye Tricksters, which is probably one of the best 2-drops in orange right now. The Xerxian Recruiter nerf kind of knocked it down a peg, but the Rye Trickster has a really interesting effect. So basically what you do is you mark an enemy minion, and the opponent doesn't know which minion you choose. Before it attacks, that minion gets -2 attack and fragile 2 until your next turn, which is what Sunrise is. So basically, if they do attack with that minion, they'll get those debuffs until that minion is killed. And if they don't attack with that minion, then the chance of it getting the debuff goes away. And then on demise, you lose life equal to the amount of times you've used the ability. So I have died to a Rye Trickster who just stayed alive a little bit too long, and I've just used a little bit too much. So you got to keep that in mind. Typically, it'll be removed pretty quickly, so it's not really something you'll have to worry about. But it's just something to keep in mind if it's been on the board for a few turns. And then moving on for the new cards, we are running a full suite of the Jezreel Arquebus. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly, but this card is pretty nuts. We're not really worried too much about the Forge effect on this. The fact of the matter is this card is a 6/9 for 4 mana with kind of a nuts ability on the Parse Divinity Cannon once that does end up coming out. And we don't really care about that getting Lurker because 6 health is going to be a lot to get through. And then additionally for the new cards, we are running the Triennial Patrol. Now this is going to be one of the best new orange cards in the new set. even at common rarity. So it basically just creates 3 minions. It can clog up almost anything. I got a few wins just from clogging up the boards with these bad boys. And then the Forge effect, all of the minions get Slayer 2, which is extremely efficient with trading up to get a lot of use out of this card. But other than that, it's going to be some pretty standard yellow-orange stuff. Got the Meso Libres, the Wonder Drug. I do wish that I had ran 2 Wonder Drugs in a lot of matchups, so that may be something to consider. You have your Serendipity Efreet for your 3-drop slot. You could also be running the Shadvahar Beast as well, but the Serendipity Efreet is generally better for slower decks since it's a lot more for an aggro or mid-range deck to get through as opposed to a 1-3. And then we are running a single copy of Seal of Exile, just for some spot removal or AoE removal, whatever the situation calls for. And of course, 2 Misanthropias. Orbital Jamming Satellite is a great control tool against a lot of things like Necromantics. And 2 of the Olama Rings, since we have a decent go-wide strategy with the Perennial Patrol. You have your Eager Recruits, and your Clay Effigies benefit from this as well. So I decided to bring this list because it's pretty much just my favorite Mythgard deck. It's been my favorite deck since I played it and released my initial video on it a while ago. So I really just wanted to bring it because it was a true comfort pick for me. Oh, and then for the path, we want the new one, Coliseum of Strife. This one is extremely good in this deck since you're going to be using a lot of your stuff to trade. You'll be able to generate a lot of Coliseum stacks, giving you some buffed up stuff to draw, and it can generate generally a draw every 2 or 3 turns, which is a little bit quicker than Turn of Seasons, and you don't have to deal with winter. But I brought this deck as a comfort pick because I'm extremely comfortable and familiar with this archetype, and so I feel like I have a pretty good matchup into a lot of the stuff that I was expecting a lot of people to bring as well. And next, we have a classic Valkyries deck, Rainbow Impel Valkyries. A lot of people have been trying the Coliseum Valkyries. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think the draw from Rainbow is going to be a little bit better. And it also just gives you more stuff to burn as opposed to more minions. So really all of the new cards are just going to be the Canines. These are really good. You can high roll a 3-2 on 1. In some situations. It's not very common, but you know, just getting more 1-drops in a more aggressive deck is always good. With the potential to high roll like that is extremely helpful as well. And then the other new card is the Spear Sister. This is the new Valkyrie. It essentially just has a Knives in the Dark effect on it. Really, the stat drop is going to be plenty enough for a lot of situations. It has the 5/4 stat line, similar to Kara Morning Wives. It's really awesome on Demolition Speedway, again similar to Kara. And then we have the new Mythic Spin the Gatekeeper. So this is going to be really good for cheating out your enchantments and, you know, being able to get more pressure on the board quicker. You know, it's a vanilla statted minion, 4/5 for 4, and it also has teleport, which works great with our enchantments and impel. So it's pretty much a no-brainer to throw in a Valks list. Other than that, you have your standard Valkyrie fare. You have all of your Valkyries. You have your standard enchantments with the Cairnhenge, Demolition Speedway, Giant Stairway, Sea Havens, Junkyard Valhalla. Yeah, and it's really just a standard list. It's not really anything special. And then we have a new favorite of mine that I discovered. It's going to be red-green mid-range. So this is going to be a slower option similar to yellow-orange. It's extremely good into most aggressive lineups because it has an insane amount of life gain and card draw. So you'll be able to consistently keep a full hand. You'll be able to gain a lot of life over the course of the turn. You have some decent AoE removal in the Magmatar. You have some awesome spot removal in the Rush minions, the Daring Trapezis, your Wings of Abaddon, and some good AoE in your Ruby Raiders. And another really great option against Necromantic and the Crucible Flare. Really just any demise effect. We are running 3 of the Anheli. These are extremely useful for some late game spot removal. The Canine Handler is really a good cantrip. It'll draw another Canine Handler or a Volkov Heavy once you play it, once it's forged. So it's pretty much just a free card to play, a free body to put down, because it'll generally replace itself. Sugar Plum Fairy is a really fun card to use in this list. You're generally going to be able to protect it. A common strategy that I use is to play your initial minion in either lanes 2 or 6, and then drop a Sugar Plum Fairy on the outside in lane 1 or 2 so that it's protected well. And it has Agile, so it'll be able to hit face and gain you some life. And then as far as the new cards, other than the Anheli, Canine Handler, Crucible Flare, we are also running the Ruby Raider, which is, like I said, great AoE removal. With Forge it gets Rush, and the Breaches deal 1 damage to all other minions. Keep in mind that that does include your minions as well, so it'll kill a lot of our 1 health early drops that we have, like our Strigoi Pops or our Sugar Plum Fairy. But we're also running some late game bombs like the Traitorous Murmur, the Short Stag, Iguturso, Serapis as well, which is really awesome life gain, and the 7 Ring Ritual to kind of close out the longer games. And the Fated Firebird is always good to kind of throw down and just keep having this recurring threat that the opponent has to deal with over and over. The life loss on demise doesn't typically affect us since we are running a lot of life gain, so I'm not usually too worried about it. And then one of the 3-drop used to be the Historian, but after the nerf I had to swap it out for the Muse. The Muse performs decently. It's not the best 3-drop, but it is a really good defensive drop into a lot of things like the Ifrit or like the Bartender as well, because it'll trade into almost any other 3-drops. But that's also assuming that they don't have a cheap rush minion to throw into it first. But it also replaces itself on demise and draws a card, so that's always helpful as well. So my main goal in this lineup was to cover kind of all 3 bases. Base number 1 is an aggro deck. Bring your own aggro deck, which is going to be my Valkyries deck. It's the aggro deck that I have the most practice on, that I'm the most familiar with. Step 2 would be to bring a good anti-aggro deck. Aggro is getting pretty popular in the meta right now with the yellow-red aggro that Madoka popularized, as well as multiple versions of red-purple aggro. So those are all things, and also just more Valkyries as well. That deck doesn't run well into Valkyries, but it can easily steal away some wins with a Stray Pup over in the corner, kind of healing those 2 damage every turn. And then the third thing was to just bring a comfort pick, something that I'll be able to pilot into any matchup because I'm very familiar with the deck, which was the yellow-orange. As far as ban strategies went, I would always ban yellow-green because I hate playing against yellow-green. Everybody does. And I would also always ban spirits because I didn't have a deck that could beat spirits consistently. Red-green was probably my best bet, but it doesn't have enough life gain to get through, and I wasn't running a full rush package to kind of take everything down as it came, to kind of burn them out of resources. So I would always ban yellow-green or spirits. Thankfully, I didn't go against anybody that ran both yellow-green and spirits, so I was safe from that. But what we'll do now is head into a couple of replays to kind of see how the lineup went. So in groups, I ended up 4-2, which was kind of the cutoff mark when it comes to moving on to day 2. I had a pretty decent streak at the beginning, going 3-0 against Tufaka, Dreadrunner, and Vorpal Snark, who are all great players. Tufaka and Vorpal Snark especially being champion rank. And Dreadrunner is a great player in his own right as well, bringing some really unique deck options to the tournament. I did drop 2 games to the only 2 people that I faced that moved on to day 2 as well. Toonstar and Ben, they both went 5-1 in groups. So I think they were pretty acceptable people to lose against, which ended up pushing me over the edge as far as it comes to tiebreakers moving in from my 4-2 spot. And then when it comes to day 2, let me see, here it is, I actually 2-0'd in the first round to get to the semifinals. And then unfortunately, as soon as I made it to the 4th spot, I had to drop out due to an emergency. So I wasn't able to see how far I could go, kind of just giving me that 4th place spot just automatically, which wasn't great, but it's what I had to do at the time. As far as some interesting matchups, I think this match against Toonstar on his blue-orange rainbow deck was a very interesting matchup that I probably could have won had I not misplayed as much as I did, but my nerves got to me. I was 3-0 at that point going up against my toughest opponent yet, so I kind of misplayed a little bit, but we'll go ahead and hop into that replay really quick. Okay, so opening hand, we are looking just fine. We have a 1-drop. We have something to protect our 1-drop as well in the Daring Trapezist. So I'm going to play the pup here in lane 6. Again, keeping lane 7 open in case I top deck a fairy. Is that what they're called? Yeah, Sugar Plum Fairy, which I didn't. So at this point, what I should have done, I should have just used the Infuse on the pup and pushed the extra damage and kept the Trapezist for some spot removal in the future. But instead, I decided to try to put pressure on him since he did miss his 1-drop to kind of try to race him down a little bit. And so he's going to go ahead and play his Feign to test my pup, and at this point I have no choice but to just infuse the pup and trade it in, and then get the extra 2 damage in with my Trapezist. So now he plays the Feign to contest the Trapezist, which is a little annoying because I am running low on resources, so it would be extremely helpful to not have to use them, which is why I think using the Trapezist to push for damage over here in lane 2 was a misplay, because then I would have that Trapezist in hand to kind of use more freely instead of just as a minion, just a normal minion. And right here, I also think I made a misplay playing the non-forged Canine Handler. Right here, I probably should have just used the Raid the Tombs to draw some more cards to kind of give me more options moving into next turn. Because that 2/2 isn't going to be doing too much. Actually, I think it dies at the very start of the turn. So what that does is it opens up for a Coin Marty Core, where instead he would have likely just played this parry or the
dangerous
Mooring Lives, which I could have gotten rid of with the in-house. So right here I don't have much of a choice but to just try to draw some cards. He didn't leave much pressure up, so I'm fine here with just playing 2 draw spells, refilling my hand pretty well, and moving on with the next turn. So I got some decent pickups. The Murmur's great. I got some more board fodder to kind of protect and increase my life total with the Sugar Plum Fairy and the Stravoid Pup, and the Trapezist to also protect those as well. The Magmatar is looking like a strong play coming up. Yeah, right there, and right there. So right here, I'll drop my Stravoid Pup, try to keep my life total high. So I drop the Scion to contest the Pup, also giving them that Pride of Place spell in their hand, which they can easily use on this 1/1 token to generate another threat, or use it on one of my threats to nullify. But I'm lucky I grabbed that wing so that I can continue to push some damage and heal up some life. What I'm really waiting for is another green card so that I can burn to play either my Anheli or my Murmur. So right here, I'm positive that they used the right Trickster effect on my Sugar Plum Fairy, so there's no use in attacking with that. I do have to take down this sidecar because it can give a lot of things rush, and then I just go ahead and use the Infuse, because why not? So this is where things are going to kind of get a little tough. Now this guy's going to generate quite a lot of value, and I don't do a great job at not playing into it.
Is that
He makes it pretty hard. So this is going to be a decent option for my Trader's Murmur to come down, which it does trade off those 2/2s, but I'll use my Sugar Plum Fairy to kill off one of those and kind of protect it. And I'm feeling a little decent about the little lead I've been building up. So Toonstar is pretty much out of options at this point, and I have a lot of cards in hand. So I'm just going to drop my big boy here, kind of shut down that 2/5, which I believe, yeah, we'll just play the Armageddon Angel. So the Armageddon Angel triggers, and then it's going for 2/2. So that's a really tough spot for me to be in, which I can Anheli the Armageddon Angel, and then play a pup, but that was a lot of value that he was able to get, and it also just used my entire turn.
Dangerous sands.
So that'll give me some space to catch up and kind of take over the game from here. I have the double Ruby Raider in hand, which I can't get through anytime soon.
Is true.
And I don't know if that was the right placement for the Serapis. Maybe in the middle would have been better, because that just opens it up to a blocker right on the plateau, which is just going to generate more 2/2s.
Reporting.
She has the recruit, which is going to just get a lot of value.
Do we have a mission?
And this double Ruby Raider is looking really good if I would ever be able to push them both through, which it doesn't look like. He's really going to give me the chance to. So right there, I decide not to attack to try to protect my Serapis, because I would be able to revive something next turn with the Serapis ability, which they're able to just take it down anyways, and I can kill a couple of things there. Use the Crucible Flare on the Party Core, which it isn't forged, so it does get the Demise effect, unfortunately. And the spin coming down with Teleport and the Serendipity of Frit to clog up some more lanes. It's going to make it very difficult for me to win. Basically, my game plan at this point is just to stall out until the Ifrit kills him, which turns out to not be the best plan in the world, because he has a lot of pressure on board.
Treats.
So I'm going to play the Sugar Plum Fairy, try to protect it with a couple of K9 handlers, or just one because that's all I have the gems for. And that Teleport's really going to hurt with the Danger Zone. And the nailing the tossing around.
Brilliant.
And that's going to be lethal. So that game, I pretty much had it under control until I didn't. You know, it wasn't just a single turn. There was a few misplays that I did that could have led me to possibly winning that game. A couple of things that I should have played that I didn't. A couple of things that I shouldn't have played that I did. So hopefully that was a decent learning experience for you guys trying to pick up this red-green deck. And then moving into my other loss, we're going to check out this game 1 against Bad. I think this was the good one. Alright, so he is on Valkyries and I'm on Yellow-Orange. I'm pretty comfortable in this matchup. It is going to be tougher, but I have the Mythropia in hand, I have Meso Libre, and I have a Venom Fang Mutant. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with combating the early game offense. But Bad has a decent curve of his own, so it's definitely a tough one. So right here, I play the Mutant, to kind of contest that 3-2, I have to play it directly ahead, and thankfully I have the Coliseum buff, giving that +1/+1. He's just gonna run that sidecar, or the scout away, and then drop the sidecar. The sidecar is kind of scary, but thankfully I have the protect corrode equipment combo, so they're not able to get much value out of it. I'm gonna pop that over to kind of push over into the sides, as opposed to being able to control the middle,
Is that
because you
all
don't
you've
really
got?
want a player to have control over the middle of the board. Right here, what I do, I need to stun that, so I'll play the Mythril Libre to stun, kind of chase that scout away a little bit more. But the bridge way scroll comes down, giving it pretty much free reign over that character. But thankfully, I have the Misanthropia in hand. I don't know if I should have burned the Libre there. I think maybe burning the Zelia would have been a better play. The Libre is very, very useful for the stun. And then, the Zelia does have the Blight effect, but it's just Blight 1. And I'm not really in any position to give minions attack. So, I think the Zelia would have been a better burn. I send the Libre in so that the Hera dies before the Blight goes off, because with Blight 3 would have lived with 2 health. I top deck the other twin, so I feel comfortable burning one. This is kind of ways to get through this sidecar.
I know the way.
So it's just gonna, be alive, which isn't something that whatsoever. And I guess you could say it's okay that I kept the Zelia, because that was the sidecar, but I still would have rather had the Messy Libre, I believe.
Yes. Brilliant.
So it's starting to look like I may be able to stabilize here, but I make a couple of key mistakes here. Like, I shouldn't be swinging the damage in. I think I should pop this guy over.
The storm breaks you!
Light. That would also help protect against that Ingrid, which ends up being kind of annoying in combat. I'm not really able to do much against the full hand refill that they got,
Do we have a
especially
mission?
with the top deck of the 2-1. I throw the armor on the Zelia because they can easily pop something like the sidecar with the scout and kill it. So I just wanted to try to help that live a little bit longer. But they have the lethal with the troll shenanigans bouncing everything around on the mission speedway, so it ends up not really mattering too much anyways. So hopefully that was kind of a helpful thought process guide on how I approached the Mythgard Open over the weekend. And I think I did pretty well for myself. I was actually not very confident in what I would be able to achieve. I was kind of expecting to not even make it to day 2. I wasn't even expecting to have a winning record at all. I was expecting to kind of, go maybe 1 win, 2 wins tops. So I was extremely happy with my performance. And hopefully you were able to learn something for some upcoming amazing Mythgard tournaments. So, if you liked the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button for more Mythgard content, and remember to always GG for Matt.